take two.
Is that too much? Welcome to Choo. My name is Jacob, and today I am going to show you how to make what I call the poor man's mead, or the people's mead. So, I've done a bunch of videos on mead before. Check out Mead 101 or whatever. That will tell you everything you need to know about mead, what it actually is, the history, the origin, and how to make it. But that whole video summarized real quick. Mead is just wine made from fermented honey. The issue I have, and a lot of us have, especially these days, is that honey is fucking expensive. You're looking at 10, 15, 13, 12, $9 per kilo. So if you're doing, say, a 20-litre batch like this, hang on, that's got shit in it. Let's try this one. If you're doing 20 litres of mead, this is 5 gallons, so 19 litres, but whatever. You're probably going to want to put 5 or 6 kilos of honey in there. So already, $60 just on your sugar source. Then you're going to add all your other stuff, your yeast nutrients, pectinase, if you're going to make some sort of melomel, all kinds of shit. So it's not actually that cheap to make your own mead, as opposed to like brewing your own beer or something like that. But it still works out cheaper than if you were buying it from Dan Murphy's. But it's still pretty expensive. So what I've come up with, which I didn't invent this per se, people do this all the time, is create a poor man's mead. So essentially I've done a sugar wash and then I've back sweetened it with honey. So it's not as delicious if you're a traditionalist, but you can still get a really nice tasting dropout. This isn't quite clear yet, even though I've racked it twice. What happened was, I got one of these little buckets that I got from Bunnings. I had a proper mead, a traditional mead in there with all the delicious yeast nutrients in there and malic acid, tannic acids, all kinds of stuff to make a delicious traditional mead. And then I went to do a staggered nutrient cycle, meaning you're putting nutrients in every other day until all your nutrients is gone. I was using, I think, diammonium phosphate. There's better things, but that's nice and cheap. And one night, wouldn't you know it, I had a couple of these little cheekies and I went to put in the nutrients. This is only after like day 6. And instead I put in potassium sorbate or something like that. So essentially a wine stabilizer, and I killed a bucket of perfect mead before I had a chance to ferment it. So I stabilized it, you know, making the yeast inactive. So I ended up with 5 liters of honey water, which is just non-alcoholic, just sugar water, because I fucking put the wrong thing in there when I was a bit pissed. So I was sitting on that for ages, so I thought I don't want to waste that. So what I did in this was, I created a sugar wash. So the recipe will be here somewhere. I think I've got it here actually. Barbarian's blood, that was a good one. Oh yeah, I've got it here. It just says sugar wash. So I used about 5 kilos of sugar. I put that in there, and the secret to making it quite nice is, obviously you still want to put your yeast nutrients in there, but I also put a kilo of sultanas in there. That's about $6, or raisins if you're an American. So a kilo of sultanas, 5 kilos of sugar in a 20-litre fermenter. EC1118 is my go-to yeast. Bit of yeast nutrients, I put some diammonium phosphate in there or something like that. And then I just let that fucking go nuts, right? And that pretty much created a really nasty, it went up to 18% alcohol. The original gravity was like 1.1 or something like that. So it was quite strong, and it has that really strong aftertaste, that alcoholic flavor, which is because it's just using white sugar. So that's not ideal. A lot of people do that if they're going to distill it. It's not necessarily ideal for mead because it doesn't have any complexities to it. The sultanas add a lot of tannin to it, which is really nice. But then what I did was I let that age for a bit, and then I back sweetened it. I racked it into, well, you can see me racking it over there. So I went from this, and from that I went to this. I stabilized it once I back sweetened it, and I added a little bit more of this metabisulfate or whatever I used to stabilize it, just so it wasn't. So as you can see in the siphoning bit, really not good idea to put your mouth on there and then introduce it to the thing, because yeah, obviously you're going to be introducing bacteria and yucky stuff from the mouth. But my auto siphon broke, so I just fucking winged it. It's a cheap brew anyway. And then from there, you go into the smaller ones, and then from there into here, huzzah! And then from there in here. Now that's quite strong still. I would, even back sweetening it, I reckon that's about 14 or 15% alcohol. Back sweetened with honey. So that's all you're doing. Create a sugar wash, throw some fruit in there, boil the fruit up first to get rid of any yuckies. Throw that into your pot, pitch your yeast, add your any yeast nutrients if you want. And remember, every time you add something, it's creating more and more of an expense. Then just back sweeten with honey. So I used about 1.5 kilos of honey to back sweeten it. So that's $15 odd, and then the sugar is $2 a kilo. So this whole thing probably cost around $25, and I ended up with about 20 liters. 20 liters of the people's mead. And obviously it's not technically a mead because my primary sugar source was not honey. It was sugar. But that's the people's mead. So sorry I haven't put out a video in a while. I've been super busy with this. Oh, the newest member of the Choo crew. Her name's Boudica, named after the Iceni Celtic warrior queen who killed a whole bunch of Romans. So this little fuckface has been keeping me up all night. Oh, because she's pissing and shitting everywhere. So I will be doing much more detailed videos, but I just thought I'd put this video out real quick. So if you're struggling a little bit to get your hands on some cheap honey, try the People's Mead, because it is still delicious, especially if you do the little secret trick, which is throw a bunch of raisins in there, or fruit, even apples and stuff like that you can throw in there. I've got heaps more recipes coming out with a lot more footage, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thanks for watching.